No signs of anxious days are evident as the family of the first American to orbit the Earth arrives for their reunion with the now famous head of their household. Vice President Johnson personally escorts the new American hero to the ending of the separation that has existed for almost a month. And the welcoming crowd here at Patrick Air Force Base south of Cape Canaveral sees a fond embrace for his wife reveal a warm human being as well as a man of skill and courage. For daughter Carolyn Ann and son David, it's the most memorable moment in their young lives, and a grateful tear or two acknowledges the family's joy. The younger generations are joined by an elder, as Glenn's mother again embraces the child of her bosom. She and her husband, with the wife and the children, and Mrs. Glenn's parents, were flown here for the reunion by President Kennedy. Father and son exhibit manly restraint. Proceeding now to Cape Canaveral, 100,000 acclaimed Colonel Glenn to the hangar near the scene of his takeoff point. Here, President Kennedy leads the welcoming group as the intrepid Marine and his family arrive on the stage, where he will receive the first acknowledgement of his pioneering space role from a grateful nation. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration's Distinguished Service Medal, with the President making the award.
His performance in fulfillment of this most dangerous assignment reflects the highest credit upon himself and the United States. Colonel, we appreciate what you've done.
The space capsule that served her husband on his unique experience is examined by Mrs. Glenn Jr. as the hero himself describes his flight for JFK, after which his mother and dad get a first-hand account of the American space epic. 8,000 feet from his launching site, Colonel Glenn holds his press conference, and for the first time, the public hears directly of his triple orbit and his plunge back to the Earth. Remarks highlighted by the significant technical observation that human pilots can replace a lot of the automation gadgets in future spaceships.
G's during re-entry got up to about 8. The parachute functioned completely normal fashion, and that's probably the prettiest little old sight you ever saw in your life, to look out the window and see that parachute. I think perhaps the difficulties that we had and the action I had to take may actually have been a blessing in disguise in one way, because it showed when we had to that a man can take over control of the various systems, operate manually, still know what he's doing, not have any ill effects in this regard from zero-G.
Flown to Washington with President Kennedy, Glenn is accorded an acclamation by the citizens of the national capital that is said to surpass the demonstrations for incoming presidents on inauguration days. Carolyn Ann and David in front seat share Daddy's triumph as with Vice President Johnson, Glenn and his wife ride out the tumultuous welcome, with an occasional enthusiast erupting through the police lines to shake the hero's readily extended hand. Inclement weather didn't bother the multitude along the way, as packed from curb to building line, it echoed and re-echoed the cry, "Well done, John." Now an honor reserved for heads of state, a Lindbergh, or victorious generals is shown Colonel Glenn. The privilege of addressing a joint session of Congress, and the lawmakers learn the astronaut is not only an expert on space, but a man of compelling modesty and lively wit.
As was to be expected, not everything worked perfectly on my flight. We may well need to make changes, but these will be tried out on subsequent 3-orbit flights later this year, to be followed by 18-orbit, 24-hour missions. Beyond that, we look forward at the moment to Project Gemini, a 2-man orbital vehicle with greatly increased capability for advanced experiments. And I think it is of more than passing interest for all of us that information attained from these flights is readily available to all nations of the world. The launch itself was conducted openly and with the news media representatives from around the world in attendance. Complete information on our project is released as it is evaluated and validated. This is certainly in sharp contrast with similar programs conducted elsewhere in the world and elevates the peaceful intent of our program. I think after all of our talk about space, though, this morning coming up from Florida on the plane with President Kennedy, we had the opportunity to meet Mrs. Kennedy and Caroline before we took off. I think Caroline really cut us down to size and put us back in our proper position, though, when after being introduced, she looked up and said, "Where's the monkey?"
A man to renew a people's faith.